Right, so decisions were made, whether they be poor, whether they be good. TAC-41. Lite. So, went with this option because I've been looking at the TAC-41 now for about 6 months. But I've always been put off just because, apart from this chair squeaking like mad, which is driving me mad, so that's next on the shopping list, but ignore that. So yeah, TAC-41, I wanted the polymer body because the aluminium one, it was just too much money. The amount of money I've put into the SRS is just, I don't want to be doing it again. I want something cheap and cheerful that hardly weighs anything. And yeah, this is going to tick the boxes, hopefully, because every review I've seen, everyone is saying it's the best thing since sliced bread. I'm forever the skeptic. Not everything's too good to be true. And Silverback's history, when they brought the SRS A1 out, it had issues, and then they released the A1 Gen 2, which issues were fixed, but some other issues occurred, and then they released the Gen 3, and that was just perfect. Apart from, it's heavy, which Silverback addressed. And they made the SRS A2 and made it a lot lighter. But in my eyes, I've owned an A2, and the A1 beats the A2 hands down. Due to manufacturing finishing, yes, the weight's a bit more, but I found the A2 to be, it just wasn't right. It was gritty in some places. It just didn't feel right. So I got rid of the A2, kept my A1, and went from there. But yes, anyway, I'm getting carried away here. I'm going off on a tangent. So I was looking at the TAC-41A and the TAC-41P. Now the TAC-41A ticked the boxes on length, 9.2 millimeters. So, 922 millimeters, not 9.2. That'd be fucking dinky. But that was without the suppressor. So add a suppressor on, which I've got the 308 spare. That's another 25 centimeters, 250 mil. So that takes you over a meter. It's livable. It's about the same length as the SRS A1. The polymer is a meter unsuppressed. I'm a short arse. Too big. Way too big. I wanted something smaller. So yeah, you can drop the outer barrel length, but then you're looking £380 for the TAC-41P, plus another barrel, then plus another inner barrel, and it just mounts up. You're going over the £400 mark before you've even put any internals in it, if you want to go down the route of upgrading. Then these things came out, and they've advertised, obviously, the 41 Lite and the 41 Sport. The Lite and the Lite Sport, weight-wise difference, I mean, the Lite Sport is 1.6 kilos or 3.6 pounds for you lot that use freedom fractions, but over here in the UK we use kilos. The Lite, just over 2 kilo or 4.9 pound. Really lightweight, but my concern with the Lite Sport is it's a polymer receiver. It's an aluminium cylinder. It's a polymer spring guide. These are all cheap parts that, yes, they are going to be replaced at some point, but at extra cost. So if I was to be a clumsy shit, as I usually am, and go barreling through the woods, fall over on the polymer body, yeah, my weight would probably snap that receiver and make a mess of it. So I wanted the aluminium. And I worked out the costs. The aluminium receiver to buy on its own was about £120. Then you've got another 80 quid for the steel cylinder, plus probably another £20 for the steel spring guide. The TAC-41 Lite Sport comes in on average around the UK at £199. The Lite, which has got all the aluminium and the steel parts in it, is £100 more. It's a no-brainer. So I went with the Lite. Now, obviously, this isn't how it came because I can't leave anything standard. So I had to mess with it. And it's probably a bit of a giveaway looking at that scope there and that suppressor, what I've done to it. So, as I say, here we go. So, in the box, you get your manual, TAC-41 Lite. So I'm assuming they give you a different manual for the Lite Sport. I'm not going to go through it all. It just gives you the box content, how to load your mags, advanced settings, ergonomics, all the extra bits you can get, exploded views, parts compatibility, digital version of the manual. Yeah, bit of reading if you want it. So that's what you get in the box. You get your receiver, your stock, your out barrel, your magazine's usually in the receiver when you get it, including toolkit. New patch for the wall, so you patch walls out there, yeah, you get a new patch. And it says it's the Lite one. I'm assuming there's a Lite Sport, a polymer, so on. So that will be going on the patch wall soon. So let's take this lot out of here. I have put the stock piston and bits back in this for now. Obviously, I'm going to put my other parts back in while I do this. So your bolt handle comes out separately. Your barrel with your standard TDC. Obviously, I'm going to be swapping that out in a minute. Your rear clamp for your stock to your body. And your receiver. Now, obviously, I foam filled this because I just do on every bolt action I've had. Any crevice or void in the bodywork, I tend to fill with foam. It just stops any resonating. So, this chair is going to drive me mental. Just trying to ignore it for now. I'll probably put some daft sounds or something in there. So, put it together. Really simple. Get your standard kit. Toolkit that comes with it. You get a couple of Allen keys, a Torx bit, and a cheap little 10mm spanner that is used for the bolt handle and your nozzle. If you've got a 10mm normal spanner with a 10mm ring on the end, that is better. So an open-ended and a ring spanner would be ideal for this. I'll show you why in a minute. So, put your stock on. Really, really, really simple when you don't lose your parts. Drop that on there. Drop that in there. I don't know why they put Torx screws on the back of this, whereas everything else is Allen key. Weird one, that. I mean, yeah, you can get a little bit more tension on Torx. Allen keys do tend to strip out easier, but as far as I'm aware, everything on this is steel, other than obviously your aluminium for your receiver. I think all the fittings, I've not got a magnet to hand, otherwise I'd have checked it, but I'm pretty sure all the hardware on it is steel. Now, what you would do at this point, once you've got that on there, you'd probably put your barrel in. Because I've wrapped mine, I can't put it in the conventional way, which would be on the line on the top. Where that little notch is there, there's a pin inside. You'd slot that in, rotate it clockwise, about 10 degrees, then tighten these 3 screws up. But because I've wrapped it, I just have to take the screws out the bottom of the receiver, split it, and undo it from there. It's personal preference at the end of the day. If you're going to wrap your rifle, I've done it this way, so when I strip it down, nothing is taped together, if you get what I mean. One thing I have noticed on the forums, the bolt handle if you're going to be taking it out to put it back in storage or put it in your case all the time, just make sure you nip it up when you install it. If you're not going to take it out, put a blow of Loctite on it. In fact, I'm going to do that now, because once this is on, it ain't coming off again. And by the way, the bolt handle is ambidextrous, so you unscrew it and you slide that pin out. I'm a righty, not a lefty, so I don't know how simple that comes out. I think you might have to take the body off to do it, or take the bolt handle out. I will have a look in a minute. Anyway, let me get a bit of Loctite on this thing. Just a dab will do. So once that's in there, she ain't coming out again. If you do, a little bit of heat on it, job's good. So you will need an open end spanner to put this piece on, because there's a lot of people saying, in fact I've seen quite a few, they've been out in the woods, they've knit this thing up, well, they've basically just screwed it in hand tight, they've gone running around the woods, come towards the end of the day, after they've been sat for a while and not shot it, and then gone, my bolt handle's gone, and literally this thing's rattled and unscrewed, and yeah, that's buried in the woods somewhere, so you're gonna have to buy a new one. Sucks, but all depends. I say, if you're gonna leave it on, bang some Loctite on it. So to split the upper receiver from the lower receiver, there's literally two 4mm hex keys in the bottom, same as the TAC-41, because these bodies are interchangeable, so you can actually buy this rifle, and if you want to buy the fixed stock, you can actually just buy the stock and bolt it straight on, which is great. You can also bolt the aluminium one on. I'm not going to bother with that. At some point, when I get my hands on an AEG buffer tube, I'm going to print a little adapter with just that section of Picatinny on, so it bolts up to the standard hardware and an AEG buffer tube. And try that. But at the minute, all I've done with mine is just wrap a little bit of foam around it before I put the wrap on, just to give me a little bit of a softer cheek riser. So that's the body off. As you can see, I've foam filled everything. If you do foam fill it, do not cover this area here. That's your BB feed tube, this section. So once you put your mag in, that loads the rounds into there, which then forces those up and into that little feed tube, into the hop chamber. So yeah, don't cover that hole. The rest of it's fine if you want to cover it up and wrap it, but just not that one. So I'll put that to one side. So one thing I do want to have a look at before I put the outer barrel on, I actually want to take the trigger box off. I've not took it off yet, so I want to see what the internals are like. Yeah, so stock part of the toolkit fits, so you get every Allen key you need to actually fully strip this thing down, which is brilliant. I need to take the pin out for the bolt, which is that one there. That one just there, which you can access either the receiver off or through the trigger guard. There's a gap there on the Allen key that comes in the box. That one comes with a threaded end and a normal Allen key, and that basically just screws into that section. And pull the little piggy out. To remove your bolt, same as any other. Trigger, pull your sear back, bolt, removed. So yeah, back to this trigger box. because I am curious. Well, that was loose. Why was that loose? I didn't undo those. Interesting. We'll look at that in a minute. Right. So 4 screws. That trigger box should just slot off. Right, so there's your bearing for your sear. Just in there, which I didn't actually know was there. Here's a CNC steel 90-degree sear. At some point I might actually polish that up just to give it a bit of a mirror finish on the end, just to make the trigger brake a little bit lighter. So there's 2 screws on the bottom of the trigger box. That one there adjusts your sear height. So it's basically your sear preset, pre-cocking for the sear. And that little screw there will be your take-up for your trigger. So if you want a nice crisp brake, that one. And obviously adjust that one until you're just on the wall of the sear. If you want a bit of a pull before obviously the brake, the trigger brake's there, loosen that one off. And that will then obviously give you a little bit of pull on the trigger until you feel the wall, and then click. And obviously, really simple. Right, so I'm going to drop that back on before I lose some stuff. And in fact, while we've got them out, it might be an idea to put a bit of Loctite on them. I don't know whether it's anything like the SRS, but after a while they do jiggle loose on the trigger box for the SRS, so I was caught 2 birds with 1 stone while we're at it. Fine, I'll just put a bit of that there. No need to go mad with the Loctite. It's just enough just to stop them screws vibrating out. So I don't think they'll come loose, but why take a chance? If you stripped it down to this point, then it wouldn't hurt it. Oh, just nip those up, because obviously you are screwing into aluminium. You're not going steel into steel. It's just enough to lock it off. Overnight, that Loctite should go off and harden. They won't rattle loose. Okay, the ambidextrous bolt. While the bolt's out, because on the bottom of the bolt, this is what's stopping it. There's a locating screw on the bottom. Sits in that guide there. So to flip it to lefty, you take that piece out, you flip it round, you put it back in there, you put your bolt handle in under that cap, unscrew that, put your bolt handle in that side. You've then got left-handed rifle. Really simple. Don't know why all rifles don't do it, but this has been built for purpose. It's not a replica of a real world, I don't think. Might be wrong. But yeah, it is a really well done receiver. I did have one gripe with it. On the inside, there's some guide rings. Now, when it got to me, the cylinder was really loose in those guide rings. Now, I know this is a common thing. Stalker have released their modified guide rings to basically tighten this up, because what was happening is when you was pulling the bolt back, putting it back in, you was getting a little bit of wiggle on the bolt. My hands are ditched. And the nozzle was basically going off-centre to the hop unit and clipping the hop unit and causing a bit of damage. And everyone knows when you try and ram a nozzle in, and if it don't go central, you're going to damage something and it's not going to feel very nice. So what I've done, I'm going to show you on one of them. I'll do it on the back one. A little screwdriver on the sides here. You've got two little holes, and those are the locators for your guide rings. Poke that one, poke it in, and get a little flick. You might want to just put your finger inside and just pop it out of its channel. Little flat blade in there. Just, watch, this is where I break it. Oh, no, here we go. So all I've done is on the back of the guide rings, I've basically put 2 layers, one on top of each other, of insulation tape, which has basically just made that sit in the well and just compress them that little bit more around your cylinder, and it takes all the wobble out of it. That a penny fix, or you could say you can buy the aftermarket Stalker ones at like 17 quid. It's entirely up to you, but that works for me. Once obviously that's back in there, that tape's not going to come into contact with anything, it's just going to sit. So you can see it, there's a little groove just there, but that sits inside, and then when it's sprung back out, it ain't going to move. So just compress it, drop it back in the gap. And then all you need to do is just rotate your spring guide round. It's easier to do by just giving it a little poke. When it wants to line up, there we go. Spin it. Come on, you swine. Till that locates back in there. To reinsert your bolt, trigger bar to drop your set, and that, with that little bit, 2 little strips in there, has took all the wiggle out of that cylinder. And when that's locked, that ain't going anywhere. And it's enough just to stop that section there impacting with the hop chamber. And yeah, that would actually work really well. If it didn't, then I would have bought the rings. So I'm just going to put that to one side because I want to swap out the hop wheel while I've got it here. I've already replaced the knob. It's still got the factory 60-degree bucking in because it will lift a 4.8. It was the knob that was in there wasn't quite giving enough lift. So I bought at the same time, I bought the advanced silverback TDC wheel, which came with 2 knobs and an aluminium BB stopper. The stock one that's in there, I can't find the damn thing. I've literally had it less than a week, and yeah, it's gone. It's just disappeared. So all I've done, just for the purpose of this video, pop the original hot wheel back on, just so you can see it and see the differences of them. So that's the standard hot wheel just here, and that's the advanced one. The notches on the side, as far as I can tell, are the same. This one's made of polymer, this is made of aluminium. The only difference I can actually see is on the back of it, it goes in a spiral. The polymer one is more of an aggressive spiral to the aluminium one. The aluminium one's more of a fine take up on height. Gives you just that little bit finer adjustment. And the design of this hop chamber, I love it. The only gripe I've got with it is how tight that bucking sits inside there. And if you've owned an SRS or you own a TAC-41, you know what I mean. As soon as you go to strip this thing down and take the barrel out to clean the barrel, you're going to have to replace the bucking because the bucking gets stuck inside it. The barrel pulls and just rips the mound clean off the top of the inside of the bucking, tears it, replace it. I'd like to see one of these hop chambers designed like the polymer version, I'll try and put a image up here or somewhere of the hop chamber that actually comes in the polymer lite. It's just the normal hop chamber, but it comes in a clamshell design, so it's screwed from the top. You drop your barrel in and you put the top half on, which is a better design in my eyes for longevity of the internals and serviceability. So the only thing I have swapped out on this hop chamber, as I say, is the hop wheel and the knob, and that is the advanced long knob. So the only difference between that and the stock one, as far as I could tell, is this one is about 1.5 millimeters longer that way, so it allows to put more pressure on. But it works, as I say. I've had it range tested. I took it up to my local site the first day I built it. Luckily enough, obviously there was a game day on, otherwise I'd have been sat waiting until there was. I'll just trim a bit of that off. And we had it hopping 0.48 with the new knob in, nice and flat out to about 70 meters. Yeah. Right, sorry about that. Where was we? We've had an unexpected visitor. Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Right, so where was I? Yeah, so anyway. So putting this dial back on, it's exactly the same as the standard one, fitment-wise. It just gives you, as I say, a little bit more adjustment. But when you're installing it, it's the same as obviously the standard one. Refit it between, obviously, the pin mark between 0 and 1. Put your wheel in so it sits flush. Bolt back in the top. When it wants to fucking go in there, come on, you swine. Oh dear. No, wrong one. That one. Tighten it back down. Just nip it up. When you do come to obviously take the barrel and the hop out of this, you have to remove all this lot, make sure you don't lose any parts. But what I will say, and most other people have said when they've stripped these down, is when you've took the end cap off and you push the barrel and the hop and everything out the back of it, there's a little red clip on the top of the hop chamber with a spring under it. For God's sake, make sure that when you've got it, you turn it upside down so this pin and spring comes out onto something soft. As when I did this first time round, I was downstairs. Yeah, I'd watched all the videos and, oh, fuck it, I was a know-it-all. I pushed the barrel down. It got unjammed from the 3 barrel spacers that are in there, which are really tight. And that little red pin and spring just went ping, and it just fucked off into the ether. My kids' toys were in the back room. I heard it bounce off something, and I spent the next half an hour looking for something which I had no idea what the bloody hell it looked like. So just be careful with that. The differences, one thing I have seen on the Lite Sport and the Lite comes with an aluminium hop chamber. The Lite Sport comes with a polymer one. Now, from what I've seen, the polymer one, I do like the design of it, as it's a clamshell design, whereas the standard hop there, I'm not going to do the barrel strip down today because I don't want to be trying to find this thing, because I know it's going to fire out. It's on camera. It's going to happen, so I'm not going to let it. So, putting this stuff together, as I said before, you've got a pin on the top, and a line there. You just drop that in, locate it, 10 degrees, that's located in place, and that should be level with that. The Allen key that came with your cylinder lock fits that, but just for purpose sake and make my life easier, I'm just going to use my T-bar. Nip those down, just nipped. These only tighten up to 4 Newton meters. So just enough, otherwise you will end up warping the body, and no good. The polymer one, from what I've seen on the videos, obviously the polymer's not threaded, there's little square hex nuts in the back, and you basically bolt through and bolt to them. So if you do take those all the way out, those little nuts are going to drop into your receiver and you're going to have to split it down like this. Not a major issue, but just literally crank those down ever so slightly, and that's it. That's all. Before obviously I strip this cylinder down, I'm actually going to do the air seal check on it from stock internals. So nothing has been changed. It's still got the standard piston in, standard spring, standard buck in, standard barrel. If I can get it on view. Where's my microphone? Over here. So that's about 10 seconds. Sealed. So the seal from factory is spot on. So now we've done that, I'm going to strip it down. I'm going to pull the stock guts out of it and put mine in. So pull your bolt out, same as before. Put that to one side, don't need it. So this is where I was on about earlier with the stock spanner, which has decided to run off. Again, you stole it.
I've not stole shit, it's right next to you, you dumbass.
Fuck you, sit down. So right, yeah, stock spanner I was on about. Does its job, but obviously I was a ham-fisted twat and nipped it up too much. And as you can probably see now, it's sort of
rounded,
opened up a little bit. So, sod it. Ring spanner. On there, grab your bolt handle, click. That's it, loosened. Unscrew that.
Piston.
Yeah,
I was waiting for it.
No start. So, stock piston. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to weigh that thing. Stock spring, I think that's an M90. Alright if you're in Ireland. I think you're running 1 joule over there. So the stock internals will be fine if you're on a 1 joule limit. But as we're in the UK, we are 2.23. So see you later. Steel spring guide with bearing. Brilliant. So just pass me those scales a minute.
Drug scales or normal scales?
Normal ones. I don't need the little ones because somebody hasn't put any 0.48 BBs in my 0.4s.
What are you on about?
Yeah. Funny thing, when you ask one of your friends when you're at a game day, can you do me a favour and just unload that speed loader back into that bottle over there so I can reload it with 0.3s because I'm not going to be running DMR anymore, and he pours it straight into my 0.48s. I'm colourblind. Yeah, I couldn't see it. So I had to spend 3.5 hours measuring every BB out to make sure what weight there was. Cheers. Not bro. Right, so stock piston. 52 grams. Respectable, but not what I'm looking for. Because this was one of the reasons I actually bought the TAC-41. Because on the SRS I upgraded my VMP to a steel body and had the spare aluminium body, so it'd be rude not to use it. And I also bought the Silverback advanced piston head, which I have modified because I found a problem with that as well, which I'll go over in a second. So take your sear off. If you've got a VMP, brilliant. It comes with that little tool. That just literally drops in the back of there. That, from factory, will be Loctited on, so you're probably going to have to heat it up. Take that off. Chuck that to one side, because that's never going to see the light of day again. Don't need it. SpongeBob, I need it. Don't need it. Right. So I've modified my VMP. I've actually 3D printed a couple of guides for the back, just because the faceless one that I was looking at, they're not in stock and I'm impatient. And I've got a 3D printer, so why not? Because obviously my SRS runs the faceless mouse fart piston, which that is just godly. There is nothing better than a mouse fart piston, and I will attend to that. So this thing has been chronoed and chronoed and chronoed, and I found the best weight for my setup with the spring I am using, which is a Ratpax 2 Plus with a couple of spacers. 113 grams. It's actually quite heavy for a 300mm in a barrel, but it does its job. So I'm going to get that put in, but before I do, I'm actually going to mention the issue I found. So I went with the Silverback Advanced piston because it's an O-ring design. End of the day, a lot of people out there are manufacturing these pistons with a cut piston design, whether it be the stuff that's in Novrich rifles, whether it be the Wasp pistons, the Sappy pistons, they've all got a cut design on them. I don't like it. Just for the sole purpose of, if you ever damage that cup, say you're at site, you chrono in and you actually chrono hot, so you've got to strip your rifle down and adjust your spring. You put it back together and you damage that cup, you're screwed. Whereas if it's an O-ring design, an O-ring is going to cost you about 10 pence an O-ring, and you can keep a couple in your box. If it's a cup design, you've got to order one. 9 times out of 10, they're not in stock. So, yeah, you should have a look. I always prefer an O-ring design. But anyway, I am going off the rails on something that, yeah. I found the air brake on this thing. Where's my verniers? The whole idea of the air brake system is basically to stop the airflow before the piston reaches the end, to cause, obviously, a cushion of air to reduce the sound. Now, the stock air brake on these things, this is the stock air brake, by the way. I've just mounted some O-rings to it. I don't know whether this is actually going to focus. Come on, you swine. Here we go. Right, so I've put 3 O-rings on it. That was actually done by using a Dremel and a drill. Where's the other piston? Right. I actually got this idea from the Silverback, the original mouse fart piston, before he upgraded to the spongy ones, the rubber ones. He actually had 2 O-rings on it for a reason. The stock thickness, and bear in mind, there is 2 advanced piston heads for the TAC-41. There's the gas blowback one and the normal one. If you are just buying the piston head, you need the normal one for that cylinder head, unless you upgrade to the gas blowback, piston head and hop unit. The bore size on the nozzle is different. I think it's about 0.5mm. But, come on. Don't want American, we are English. We fought them so we didn't have to use freedom fractions. Millimetres, thank you. Right, so 3.78mm. Where's the nozzle? Come on. There it is. Nozzle diameter internally. 3.8. Hang on. 3.86, and that was 3.78. So there is still a bit of air loss. And the problem I was coming across was, because it's such a short length barrel and such a big air volume, by the time the piston has got to about here, this is just a guess in distance, that baby's already left the barrel. So then you've got no resistance coming from this end and loads of resistance coming from this end. So that thing has got nothing to slow it down naturally. Whereas if it's got a BB in it, it's going to naturally progress and slow down until the air brake hits, which causes them to go quiet. But because it's such a short barrel, you've had to upgrade the spring. By the time that nozzle gets that air brake inside it, there's still a gap there, and it's causing a bit of like a farting sound, where the air's just escaping round the air brake. So what I did as I say, I got one of these. I literally clamped that in my drill. I got one of the very thin slitting discs on a Dremel. I rotated the drill anti-clockwise, turned the Dremel on, and just brought it up to it, and just let the Dremel do the work until it cut the required groove that I wanted. Then moved on, did another one, went on eBay, ordered some O-rings, which are 2mm internal diameter and a 1mm wall thickness, which gave me 4mm, and it fits perfect.
Why don't you use loom bands?
Don't even fucking start. Loom bands are good for one thing in airsoft.
Flicking your mate with.
Yeah, flicking your mate with, or holding vegetation on while you're waiting for glue to go off. Don't even start me with that. That one I found in that Glock mag, whoever put that in there wants a slap. But, yeah. Anyway, I'm actually trying to do something important. And you're getting worse. Right, so... Turtle spring. And my spring spacers. 1, 2, right, I've actually put 4 in this because my spring is a bit shorter than stock until I order a new one. I want a little bit of lubricant using TAC-41L. Just on the O-ring. One thing I do want to check before I put this back together, did I tighten that rear end up?
You did, you put the screwdriver in.
I'm going to double check. Because Laura the sod, I'll forget about it. I'll go to shoot you next weekend and...
Oh, we're playing?
Yeah. By the way, if any of your lot play in the UK, Nottingham, come and see Division 22. It's a good little snipey site. Plenty of overgrown areas, plenty of long range encounters. It's great fun. Right, so that's rebuilt. One gripe I did have before I put this back together, when I got it, bolt handle. On the back end, where this rear cap sits, that bolt handle was wiggling. Now, I don't know whether obviously it's just this one, but what I did, took the grub screw out, undid the back end, tried tightening it up, it didn't take the play out of it. I'd got some spare shims from the timing shims for the Silverback DTSS. I just popped one of them over the back, butted that up to it, tightened it down till this was just smooth where I wanted it, locked the screw off, and job done. Right. So we'll bang this back together. We're going to put it in the body, we're going to get the suppressor on it. And we ain't far off done, and I'm just going to go through my final thoughts. There's a lot of thoughts, but some of them shouldn't be said in public. But yeah, so I'm going to run this with that piston set up for now until I can get my hands on a faceless mouse fault for it.
That's that rare break.
Yeah, what about that?
I know what you like for losing bits.
Mates, get off my desk.
Never. First time it's clean in 3 years.
Yes, it was chaos this morning. So, 2 screws back in, and literally that is it. There is hardly anything holding this thing together.
So compared to the VSR style rifles, you've usually got one at the front,
yeah,
and then you've usually got one sitting near the trigger, just in front of the trigger box.
Yeah, because you're getting one later, aren't you?
Yeah.
This thing, it's free floating on the front end, but because obviously Silverback have done it like the SRS, it's clamped off this. That is solid. It's not going anywhere.
Because I found
whereas the VSR,
my old VSR one, it was prone for that one going at the front.
It was.
You nip it ever so tightly, and it just strips the lock.
What you've also got to think about is I'm going to use a couple, for example. So all of the Well series, the MBO1 all the way up to the MBO8, MBO9, the VSRs, the Aries, every single receiver. I think even the Action Army T10 and T11, the receivers are made of aluminium, but they are not billet CNC. They're cast.
They're cast.
It's just Chinese monkey metal. So it's built as a toy. This thing's actually been thought about, built for purpose.
It's one of them. It's built by people that know it's going to be used for airsoft. It's not a replica of.
Yeah, it's used for slinging plastic at your mates in the woods. That we all love and enjoy.
We lost.
Marbles, Will to Live, suppressor. Right. So, I'm actually curious because my main, goal for this was actually to get this thing lighter and as accurate as the SRS. Now, given it's not as quiet due to that air brake system, I'm sure if I dropped Faceless in it, we'd be there. But if it's lighter, it can hold more rounds in a smaller mag. I think it's done its job. And to be fair, if anybody out there is looking to get into sniping and don't want to spend a lot of money, the TAC-41 Light Sport, it's a no-brainer. You're getting everything you need out of the box. You've literally got to add like 15 quid for a spring. And you've got something that's going to keep up with a lot of the tuned VSRs. It's quite scary because obviously 5-6 years ago we didn't have this sort of stuff. And we had to spend a lot of time, and when you put all the bits into it, then you found stuff didn't line up or mesh with nicely with each other. So, total weight
3 kilo,
2.99, and a mag 3.08 kilos, fully built. So, what does his big brother weigh? Jesus Christ, it's a fat cow. 4 kilos without the mag. And just for comparison's sake, magazines for the TAC-41. That one's loaded, that's 98 grams. SRS mag, loaded. 204. So
that one has got the metal. You can get the polymer, but that's the metal casing for that one as well.
My argument with the polymer one is you're still limited to 25 rounds. That's 48.
20 if you've got the followers in it.
No, they are 25 rounds. You can't put the followers in the polymers. It's only the metal ones you can.
No, I was on about just the casing is metal because you can exchange the casings around for the polymer casings.
No, it's a polymer mag. It's a whole mag.
Oh, I've got one of the polymer casings.
Yes, 3D printed that one you've got.
Is it?
Yes. So shut up.
Just going on about the weight.
It's not. So yeah, more rounds, less weight, and obviously it's also going to solve the other issue I had. Now, I'm going to try and wrap this up because time is getting on. So one of the main reasons for it, me and Andy was actually having a discussion. When we was playing the last game, we got into a position where we had to lay prone, and trying to cock this thing in a prone position
without it resting on something, and
your elbows, obviously, it's hard to picture, but your elbows like down here. So to cock it, you've got a chicken wing. So the amount of
like that, and then you're going back. That's a lot of movement compared to
Or you've got to kick your elbow right out to cock it in the prone position. It was driving me mad. So, VSRs, you don't have that issue. TAC-41, you don't have that issue.
And that was the whole point of us going down this route.
Yeah.
We wanted something that you can get into position with, not a lot of movement
just
to rack it.
Just obviously, because I'm ranting on about this. Here it is. What's your view on that?
A bit more specific than just view.
View. Right, I want your view. Say somebody just gave you that rifle and said you can build that for 350 quid and it will keep up with your SRS.
First, impressed. I say TDC and everything. Weight, definitely, because I say my SRS is a bit longer than yours as well, so I wonder how much that is. My gripe is the stock. I just don't like, but like you say, you're going to try and print that.
I'll say, it's TAC-41 platform. You can swap the stocks out. So you could put that upper on a TAC-41A, on a TAC-41P.
On a full stock.
It's a full ecosystem for a sniper rifle. It's
the amount that to build the similar, say with the similar qualities, well, the similar build of, say, let's just say a VSR.
Yep.
You try and go down that route to build a VSR. How much are we going to be talking? So you've got the TM bodies, you've got the SEMA bodies, you've got the JG bodies. So you've got
right. So I'm just
quick breakdown of that.
Quick breakdown. Right, you're going to have to do quick maths on this because my head's gone to pot. Ooh. So VSR body. I mean, even if you pick one up second hand for a TM VSR, you're going to pay about 90 quid. So round it up to 100 quid. Trigger box is going to cost you 120. There's £220 just for the trigger box and rifle. Then you're going to need a piston to match it. Then you're also going to need to swap the cylinder out. So there's another 90 quid. So
and the
that's
cylinder head if it comes with a bar.
And the cylinder head. If it doesn't come with it, then the piston to match. So you're looking about 450 just to do the trigger box, body, cylinder, and piston.
That's not even including the scope.
That's not even including the scope. And then obviously you've got to do the hop chamber because the stock hop chamber in a VSR sucks.
So if you go for the Action Army or anything like that, that's another 60.
80.
Is it 80?
80 quid for the Action Army hop unit last time I checked. Then
I had the old single arm one, they had the dual arm one.
To do a VSR, you're looking 500 quid. Now, I can see where Novrich came in. He went in and said, right, do this, and this. And it's pre-built, booked, ready to go. But my argument with his stuff, I mean, Christoph, fair play to you. You've done a lot of work. But your stuff is built for the European market. You bring it over to the UK, it's struggling. It's overpowered. I mean, we went to a site and the chrono on 2s. There was a lad with a Novi rifle chronoing at 498 FPS on a .2. I don't know what it was chronoing on the weight he was running. I don't want to know, but it was slinging. Anyway, I'm not even going to go into that.
So, in conclusion, the time and effort it'll cost to build a VSR compared to out of the box, minimal work.
I can go to Skirm Shop, Longbow, Bespoke, anywhere that carries these in stock. Buy the Lite Sport, so it's polymer. It will hold up to a 2-joule spring. You've got to do minimal work, so ideally you're going to want to swap the spring, 15 quid. 200 quid for the rifle.
Booking.
No.
Nub, sorry.
If you go to Longbow, you can get the Chub Nub, which should work on the standard hop wheel, or you can buy the Medusa wheel, which now does fit the Polymer's hop unit.
So standard stock, these will only lift a 4-ish.
0.45. They will lift a 4.5,
but that's a lot.
Struggling.
That's a struggle.
But okay, so ballpark figure, I'd say 300 quid, and that should cover you on a cheapish scope, rifle, upgraded spring, Chub Nub, dial, and you might even be able to get a bottle of 0.4s or 0.45s in there.
Or an extra mag.
And you're out competing with a lot of the tuned stuff. So my conclusion, I'm happy with it. There's a couple of niggly little bits with it, but for the money, it's a win in my book. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up now. So if you've got this far through it, thanks for staying with me, because I do tend to just rattle on. And if you do get 2 minutes and you're not actually following him, check out Angry Bull on YouTube. Steve's the one that actually got me into the SRS and a lot of financial debt. Thank you very much, Steve, but still love you for it. Game site wise, come up and see Division 22 in Nottingham. It's always a fun day. Other than that, just go out, enjoy the hobby. And if you want to like and subscribe to this shit, even better. Because I have got a few other things I do actually want to put a film up. All depends on the audience. If there's an audience out there for it, I will gladly cover it. But until then, thanks, and I'll see you next time.